The problem with end of the year lists is that they're not actually end of the year lists, and that is it. That is today's video. I like end of the year lists because everyone likes end of the year lists. Okay, everyone likes seeing the best movies, TV episodes, albums, podcasts of the year. It's just a nice thing. For the creators, it's nice because guess what? Their thing is honored as one of the top 10 best of the year, and it's a big honor, and it should be treated as such. It's a big deal. And for consumers, it's awesome because guess what the holiday season brings? Free time, conspicuous spending, the ability to ask people for gifts that you otherwise wouldn't ask them for. And so now you have this perfect time of year where you can compress all this lost entertainment and all this lost fun you've been missing out on the past year, and you compress it into this one period. You don't have to worry and keep up with everything and what's good and what's not in the world of entertainment. You can just wait till the end of the year and then blow out everything all at once at a time where people are on break and they can all sit down and enjoy it with their family. It's a wonderful time. And it's very nice because you get to see all of the best of the year compiled in this one location. They're very easy list to find because there's so many of them. The problem is that almost all of them, are totally illegitimate. They're totally illegitimate because they're released not at the end of the year, they're released in early December. Why? Well, it's simple. If you look at Watch Mojo, Carson Runquist, The New Yorker, Vanity Fair, Vox, you can have stuff that their main focus isn't even movies. And yet, the movie lists at the end of the year, they will have the most traffic. The biggest pieces are the end of the year list, no matter in what capacity, what medium it is. They are somehow always hits just because people like to reflect on stuff. With the exception of a few miscellaneous pieces throughout the year that somehow manage to gain popularity, these are consistent big hitters, big traffic attractors for websites, a lot of views on YouTube. So everyone wants to capitalize on that. And by January, everyone's already looking to the new year. They're looking at movies for next year. So what do? They look back and reflect in December because they also have breaks in December. And so we get to look at the best movies of the year, look at the best songs of the year, look at the best podcasts, whatever you want, whatever your choice is. And you get to experience it all during that time. And so there's now a necessity to have those lists out in early December because that's when people want to look at them. And it's important to be the first ones out because so many websites want to capitalize off of that traffic, correct? That they all need to make sure that their list doesn't get buried because it is very easy to get buried. And if you're not in the top 3 of search results, guess what? There's a pretty good chance that people aren't going to be looking at your piece. So you need to get it out as soon as possible. And that, of course, creates a really, really shitty. Because now the point isn't to necessarily praise the best of the year, it's just to praise the movies that are out right now. Now this year is a little better where The Guardian essentially sets the pace for this because they have their big top 50 of the year and they start like releasing the first day of December and they're still counting down right now. The number 1 is released tomorrow and so that's a long amount of time and they set the pace for that. But even in past years, like in 2019, Time released the best movies of 2019 on November 26th. And so now we have a bunch of movies that still may be good that haven't screened yet, some of which are potential Oscar contenders, and you haven't even seen them yet because you had the impatience and you actually felt the need to get that list out. So now your list is not an actual representation of. And I understand that, like, changing this isn't going to save any lives, right? We're not saving any children by doing this. But it's a stupid point that should be fixed. Correct? I mean, this is an issue that just should be a simple solution because it has, like, annoying extra consequences. For instance, with movies and stuff, you have situations like in the 2019 stuff where big Oscar contenders were not even out yet and you're already judging movies. Such is the case with Nightmare Alley this year. Plenty of lists were released before that even screened to anyone. And so now you're missing out on a potential Best Picture nominee because Del Toro has won Best Picture beforehand with The Shape of Water, and you're actually going to forgo even considering that just for the sake of a little more traffic, which is just stupid. Now, most of the time, these lists wait until at least all the big Oscar contenders have screened, and they miss out on blockbusters, which is, would be no big deal, except for the fact that sometimes blockbusters are very good at the end of the year. And this year, you have No Way Home and Matrix Resurrections, which, sure, may in fact not be relevant to any critics. They may not make it into any top 10 list, but they could. And so why would you do that when you have the opportunity to just wait? Because there are some cases, like with 2018 and Into the Spider-Verse, or 2017 with The Last Jedi, where you have big blockbusters that didn't screen until later on, but the critics decided, that's not really important to me, so they're going to go ahead and make their list anyway without seeing some of the most pinnacle movies of the year. And that's the same thing with happened with Cinefix, which of course brought a lot of people got a lot of people riled up because they didn't put Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse as their top animated movie of the year, and it was, of course, totally wrong. They put Isle of Dogs on there, and it was an illegitimate pick because Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse was totally better. And they also had Incredibles 2 on the list, and so it made a lot of people very aggravated. Of course, in a minor way, but if we can prevent these problems, why? It's annoying, because I like these lists. They're very fun to read, in my opinion. They're very fun to engage with, and it also gives me an idea of what I want to spend money on and what I want to see over the next couple of weeks. And yet they're totally inauthentic because they don't consider everything that's coming out. And that's just something that shouldn't be. And especially when it's like end of the decade stuff. Like with the best movies of the 2010s. Still, you're foregoing films at the end of the year that haven't been released yet, that could be contenders, that could be, in fact, the best of the year. And you're releasing it so early on, some of which were released in July, some of which were released in October. You're still missing out on potentially Marriage Story and The Irishman, which could be big players in that. It could go very high up the rankings. It's ridiculous. It's just annoying, and it's a small thing that people should just look to fix. If they're journalists and they're paid to do this, they should wait, because patience is a virtue. And it's just nice. And it more so helps you later on. Because not only, if a blockbuster film is critically regarded as one of the best, and it's not there, then your list looks dumb. And you're also mildly aggravating people by their absence. And when it comes to the best of the decade list, then you look like totally inconsistent because you don't have the same films that you have on the end of the decade, like Last Jedi, on your best of 2017 list. So now everything is just totally, your voice is not congruent anymore. It doesn't have the same consistency as it would beforehand. So just wait. Alright, but now there's another reason, okay, why these lists are totally pointless, and that's because of non-English language films, which commonly comprise a lot of these people's top best films of the year. The issue is that people can't watch them. They can't even rent them on demand. They can't even go sometimes to Los Angeles or New York or big cities in order to watch these films. And so now a lot of these lists are comprised with films that no one can have any opinions on because they weren't near a location where you could go to a film festival or anything. And so now it's just a compilation of a bunch of films where it's like, oh, I want to see that, but I'm not going to see it until the next year. And so now it's a pointless exercise because it's not actually the best of the year, because no one can actually see it during that year. And it's not even unique to foreign language films. Like with 1917, people were putting that on the list, and the distribution of that film was a disgrace. That in most cases, it wasn't available until January 10th, and even then, sometimes people couldn't see it because of how exclusive and poorly managed its release was, despite the fact that it could have done very, very well because it was a war film that also had a lot of buzz around it. And so people would have gone to see it, and yet it was so hard to. And so now we move beyond the problem of critics not being able to just wait for a second and actually wait until the end of the year in order to see everything. But now we also have the problem that these films that make up these lists just can't be seen by anyone. And so now the exercise has absolutely no discernible point to it if it's made primarily of non-English language films, correct? And it's just like, that's lame. That's a vexing quality to them that they can't be seen. And of course, the solution to that goes into larger distribution problems and the fact that Saint Maud has 3 different release years, 2019, 2020, and 2021, and now no one has any idea what to do with it, if it should even be considered one of the best of this decade, because it's not technically in this decade, but also no one was able to see it except for a very select few people in 2019, so it can't really be considered the best of that decade. And so now you have a bunch of messy lists putting Shiva Baby and Riders of Justice in multiple different years. But it really should just be the movie that they're seeing, but that can sometimes differ between critics and audiences. And now you're just like totally spun into a web of nonsense because no one sees films at the same time, and the end of the year lists are not end of the year lists. They're just very specific for certain people based on your ability to see film. But yeah, that's it. It's annoying. And critics should wait till the end because it's just good to have more encompassing lists that are able to stand the test of time if perchance there is a good movie coming out in late December, if it's a blockbuster or not. And there's wider distribution problems that make the list pretty pointless because no one can see them at the time, which creates confusion, and you don't know what's released then. And for someone like me who likes to organize their lists for years and decades, it becomes a very confusing and annoying thing that just shouldn't be. And so distribute more non-English language films, make sure you're waiting till the end, and always look at Film School Rejects best of the end year list stuff because they wait till the end, because They actually know what they're doing, and even if you disagree with what they're going at least they, and really the majority of YouTubers, as well as even something like Watch Mojo, you may be surprised to know, wait till the end. Or at least close enough to the end where every single big release has been done. And unless you're missing like some miraculous film somehow made on December 31st, you're hitting everything. Which is just how it should be. Of course you're going to miss on non-English language, but that's a step in the right direction, I guess. I don't know. There's probably like inflation or world hunger to solve right now, but I wanted to get that out.